What's shaking, everybody? Ross Mandell is right here at Willie Studios in Delray Beach, Florida. And what a special treat I have for you today. I am sitting on the set, in the studio, live with Mr. Matthew FROPRO Williams, a young brother who I mentored at one time, and I've watched him grow into this handsome, successful, productive man. What? Matthew, so great to see you today, bro.
It's great to see you, bro.
It's really so great.
It's nuts.
Ladies, is this guy a handsome hunk of a man?
It's great to be here, man. I really appreciate it. It's good to be sitting across from you and chopping it up. So, again, thank you for having me, and always a pleasure to spend some time with you.
What a privilege it is for me and for all the boys here in the studio.
Yeah.
Matthew is the founder and creator and chief exec of FROPRO, Frozen Protein, and we're going to get to that. You might have seen his displays in the Whole Foods all around Florida, health food stores, gyms, etc. It's an amazing product for those of you that actually care what you put in your body, for those of you that actually do the research, because Matthew has done all of that. Matthew, let's roll back the years. Let's start from the beginning.
Let's do it.
I have two daughters. My youngest born in 2000. And at what age did she come to tell us your story? Teaching.
It's crazy going back that far. I moved down to Florida in 2009. I accepted a position at a local, very amazing school in Boca Raton, and one of my first students down here was your lovely daughter, who's, again, just doing so well, and it's so cool to see her thriving. But yeah, as a fourth grade teacher and a baseball coach for the school, moved down here, 28 years old, kind of figured I had everything that I needed, drove down in the, Jeep soft top Wrangler with all my stuff and belongings, moved to Delray, started fresh, and, as we've talked about before, we met kind of in the year of me teaching there.
Correct, I remember that.
And, it's crazy when you think of, there's several families that were really good to me, and your family was one of them.
Wow.
And I always appreciate that. And I appreciate, obviously, we can go into a little bit more about what you did for me when I, obviously being a teacher, one of the biggest things that I share in my story is there was this guy who would come into school and literally looked right through me and knew who I was, and before I was able to admit that I was, an alcoholic or an addict, and that was you. And I remember the feeling of letting everybody down when I hit my bottom, and I hit rock bottom. And I remember your wife, Stephanie, at the time was like, "You need to call my husband." And I was like, "Fuck no, I'm not calling him," because I was terrified, because like when you know somebody that really knows who you are, and you have to get honest. And like I was just coming to that point of getting honest with myself, and being around somebody that was a strong and powerful guy, like you're, sitting across from you now, you give off that energy and you give off that confidence, and it was like, how do I talk to this guy? Like I teach his kid, and I let him down by my own failures, and I let the kids down, and that's what I felt like. I felt like a absolute failure. I didn't want to exist on the planet at the time.
Wow.
And talking to you, and I just remember anytime I share my story, I share about like the big tough Long Island Jew from New York that was like, "Mr. Williams," and I was like, and you knew me, because you had experienced some challenges yourself, and you always used to say you take your mess and turn it into a message, and you take your tragedy and you turn it into a triumph. And I hated hearing that from you, because again, when you're at that point in life where you feel like nothing and you don't want to exist and you want to shrink, talking to somebody that's walking through what you walked through at the time, and you gave me time. You made time for me. You picked me up. You took me to places. You introduced me to other people, and it really meant a lot to me.
Thank you so much for all that, and I'm so touched. Ladies and gentlemen, not a lot of things touch me, but this fella has wormed his way into my heart, and he does touch me. Now, let me share with you quickly my recollection, because I have a very specific recollection. When I met you, it was on the grounds of the school, and it was during, I think, a parents-teachers meeting.
Yes.
And you had a partner when you were teaching.
Yeah, it was a co-taught, the way the classes were set up was a co-taught classroom. So I worked with another teacher in the 4th grade.
A woman, correct?
Yeah.
A young woman.
Kristen, yeah.
Young Kristen. And I remember one of the things that I tried to do, especially because I'm handing my kids over
Sure.
to you, and it's the most valuable possession in my life.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure they're okay. And I remember meeting you and Kristen. And I think Kristen, I remember thinking that Kristen was a cutie.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to her a little bit, and I got her story in like droves. And then I tried to talk to you because you're a young, good-looking guy, handsome guy. Your outsides are beautiful. And I remember trying to engage you. And I say this with love because you know how I feel about you. But I felt like there was nobody home.
Right. Yeah, there wasn't.
I felt like you were very one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Looks great. You appear to sound okay. But in my, I have a lot more life experience, and I had a lot of experience getting myself well and going through my own journey.
Yeah.
And discovering myself. And I come from Wall Street, where I worked in tight quarters with literally hundreds of men.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand men. And I tried my little tricks, my social tricks. But you were very either evasive, or there was nobody home.
Well, there was someone home. The wall was up.
Yeah, I couldn't penetrate.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to Stephanie after. She goes, "What do you think? What do you think of these teachers?" I said, "They're nice." I say, I remember specifically saying he's a very interesting cat because I'm pretty good at sort of excavating personality, of mining,
Right.
getting into somebody and getting an understanding. I'm very invasive.
Yeah.
With my questions.
That's true.
And that's because of Wall Street training, making 300 phone calls a day and constantly qualifying the people on the phone that are willing to talk to me. And it's just something that becomes inbred in you.
Yeah.
But, I thought you were a nice guy, nice kid, good-looking boy. You thought you must get all these women, all the moms and the other teachers. They want you.
Well, that's very nice to hear.
And it was very interesting to get to know you because you're quite different
Yeah. That's changed.
than that guy.
Yeah.
And so I got a call one day from Stephanie and says, "Listen, we need you." I said, "What happened? What's going on?" She goes, "Do you remember Matt Williams?" I said, "Now, just so you know, I want everybody here to know. This was, how old is 4th grade, the teacher?
This is 2010.
Okay. This is 14 years later.
Yeah.
My kids went to middle school, elementary school, they went to high school, they both went to college. Skylar finished college. She's a star right now in business.
Yeah.
And if you say, who was your favorite teacher of all time? It's Matt Williams. Can you imagine if she knew Matt when he was this version of Matt? It's a testament to who you are and where you are today.
Yeah.
You made this leap. And I know this leap because I did it myself at one point. And it's extremely, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's breathtaking.
World of difference.
Garbage in, garbage out. Well, you had a lot of positive, wonderful things come in.
Yeah.
And that's why you do so many wonderful things right now. And I'm going to confess another story. Yesterday, I took one of my best friends and his daughter to a meeting. We went to the lunch bunch. And so she's asking me, the idea was to let her experience,
Sure.
This sort of experience.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be told where you're going because of.
Correct.
So I'm in the car trying to explain why I'm going. And then I discovered how sneaky my mind is, how sneaky I can be. I said to the car, we were all in the car, I said, tomorrow I'm going to see Matt Williams. I haven't seen him in a long time. And one of the first things that's going to come up, he's going to ask me, so when was the last time you went to a meeting?
All right.
And I could say yesterday.
Yes.
And then I shared, and right after the meeting, this woman, Susie, runs over to me. Could you please speak at my meeting? And, I was flattered and all that. And, of course, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And so life is funny. You do something for somebody, and next thing you know, a lot comes back.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You have a great reputation in that community that, when you speak, people listen. And, obviously, you have that in that community, but you have that, obviously, in your business life and the men you're helping and the men you've helped. And it's
Thank you.
It's a story that needs to be told and shared and experience strength and hope that, most people need to hear.
I'm very appreciative. Now, I get this call, Matt Williams, Town Center Mall, car accident.
Yep.
He's not wearing a shirt. He's not wearing shoes.
Correct.
I'm like, what? And I think he's drunk.
Correct.
I said, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. It's a school day. He's supposed to be teaching the kids. And that began. Tell us about that whole. This is the beginning of Matthew's Bottom. I know it's tough to engage.
Yeah, I think you got the call the next day. It had happened after the school play. The school play that we put on, and it was one of those things that I didn't realize why I overserved myself that night until I came into the fellowship and got to talk about my story. And someone was like, "You drank at somebody, and you drank because of your entitlement and your ego and the fact that you think you're owed something." So I didn't learn that until I came around. But I'll never forget. It was school play, and I helped with the lights, and it was one of those things where I feel, and again, I could have not been listening. I was pretty good at not listening to things that I didn't want to hear. And, I don't remember being thanked for doing the work I was doing that I offered to do. So the entitlement. And I remember afterwards we left. We all went to a place where someone was hosting an event. Everybody brought their own stuff. I brought, stuff for everybody and ended up consuming it all myself. And when I was done, I wanted to leave. And, I felt fine. But, I got in the car and I drove. And I tried to get home, and I made a wrong turn, and that's where my life changed, right there on Glades Road.
You were pretty drunk?
4 times over the legal limit.
4 times?
Yeah, it was not good.
What were you drinking?
It was very messy. It was a bottle of vodka Firefly. It was that iced tea Arnold Palmer liter of vodka that I brought for the party. I had consumed most of it myself.
A liter?
Yeah.
And it was vodka?
Yeah.
Mixed with lemonade.
It was like that sweet tea Arnold Palmer type drink.
I happen to like the Arnold Palmer sans alcohol.
Correct. Me too. So it's like, when you drink something like that, you're like, oh, this isn't bad. And then you realize you drink an entire bottle and think you're fine. And then, get into my car. I want to go home. I want to do what I want to do. And, rather than, I love this. Uber wasn't a thing then.
Uber. God invented Uber for a reason, mostly for drinking.
So that's what changed everything, Unfortunately, thankfully, no one got hurt except me.
Right.
Where I totaled my car, I ended up in the back of on the side of the street, and it was it was really it's like when people go out in Boca. It was probably around like 8:30 at 9 o'clock at night because the play had ended, and I was just trying to get home, and I ended up crashing my car. Fortunately, like I said, no one got hurt. Ended up at the Boca police station from what I remember, and then, Boca being very nice as it is, they don't really hold people, and they shipped me right up to Gun Club in Palm Beach, and I learned really quickly.
I've been there.
Yeah. I always
very
recommend,
unpleasant.
I always say, don't, I don't want to say don't, I don't want to tell you what to do, but it's suggested that you don't visit there ever. It's not a fun place.
If you could avoid Gun Club
Right.
Road, believe me, you're in a party. What a terrible place! What a jail that is.
But that was the turning point. I remember in and out of my drunken stupor. I remember being stripped, searched, in a room full of people, jumpsuited, and put into general population, which was the first time that had ever happened. I'd been in drunk tanks and other things, and where you're like, sleep it off, and we'll figure it out.
Right.
And I just remember kind of coming to, and I share this, it's like where sometimes when we were doing our thing, you were kind of coming to out of your fun time, right? And you really hope before you open your eyes, like, I really hope I'm not where I think I am. And
I woke up like that for about 7 years.
Right.
Every day.
And that was the thing where I came to. I was like looking down. I'm orange, dried snot, tears, sweat, gross, the smell. And I just remember like sitting up and looking around, and I was in a cot like on the top floor of like a general population. There's like the balcony and then like the lower level. And I just remember being like, man, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, I can't fucking do this anymore.
So now that reminds, so now I want to just still go back. So I find out you had this issue, okay? And all right, you drank, you drove, nobody got hurt, you fucked up your car. But there were two things that came out of that. Because I said, what's the big deal? It happens. It happens. Shit happens like that. I mean, we screw up. But then it becomes revealed to me that this is not the first time.
No.
You've had DWIs or DUIs.
DUIs, whatever they're called now, yeah.
In another city or another state.
Several states, yeah.
And that's where things got really nasty. Yeah. Because, if it happens once, I get it. Doesn't mean... It means what it means. But once you see this recurring pattern, somebody once told me when I went public, they said, you're pretty smart or maybe you're pretty lucky. We don't know. But if you do something a second time, now it confirms that you know something we don't. And I was able to do that. But that all holds true on the other side.
Yeah, 100%.
You confirmed, to have a DUI, DWI in different states and sort of getting away with it. Yeah. That's real, what we call alcoholic behavior.
Yeah, 100%.
Now I said, all right, this guy has a problem. That's all I remember saying. This guy has a problem. Now, I believe a day or two later you went right into a rehab. Is that correct?
No, so what
I know you came to my house at one point.
Yeah, so what happened is when that all came to light and I got out and I started handling my affairs that needed to be handled and had people around me. I spoke to Stephanie. She referred me to you. You actually took me to a fellowship.
An AA meeting.
An AA meeting out west. And
Boca Pines Club,
yeah,
just so you know. Great place.
And I remember sitting there and just kind of like, my arms folded, sitting next to you with our back against the glass and just kind of like looking at everybody and just kind of, annoyed that I was there, annoyed that I was in the situation, full of self-pity and hatred. And I just remember the meeting starting, and I remember you giving me the elbow nudge, and you were like, tell them who you are. And I was like, no. And you're like, you don't really have a choice. And you made me share, which was great. And I remember basically vomiting on the meeting about, I did this, and poor me, and so I crashed my car, I lost my job, I'm going to go to jail, blah, 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 blah. All the years had kind of compiled into this one instance. And I'll never forget the guy that shared after said who he was, and then he said, I remember when I was just like you, you're a scared little boy. And no one ever, I'm not a tough guy, but no one ever said that to me.
No one ever spoke to you like that.
Especially in a room full of people.
Right.
And I became very embarrassed and like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? But what happened after that was people sharing their experience of coming in and sharing their worst moments and their trials and their tribulations and how they weren't in that place anymore. And if I wanted it, I had to do a couple things. And I remember leaving, you dropped me off back home, and it was, it wasn't my first time going to an AA meeting because, I had issues in the past, but, the last time I had been in one was probably 7 years prior. I was 28 years old at the time, so kind of right out of college, one of the things that happened was, I had an incident, and I was like, when people do that, where do they go? And I went to a couple meetings, and I was like, I heard stuff. I'm like, I'm not like this person. I did a lot of comparing and a lot of looking for why I wasn't like the people that were talking. And it took me about 7 years of pain, suffering to come back to the room that, I had once been exposed to. And, going with you was really helpful because it was a strong person in recovery, a man that I respected and terrified of at the same time. And what was great about that was, after that fellowship, people talked to me, and people shared. Like I said, people shared, and people asked me to come back, and no one was asking me to come back or go anywhere with them because of what I got like when I started drinking and drugging. So I
Were you a bad drunk?
I was, you know, it was the
Nasty
thing. I
or
never
tough
really,
or-
no, I just had a good time. And it was one of those things, like I drank, you know, it's like I always say, if like we were all sitting in this room drinking, I'd be good to go. But the minute I left the environment, like it would hit me like a ton of bricks, and like I would black out. I would be out of my environment. I'd be doing something else. And usually, unfortunately, it was me going somewhere else or trying to get home.
So you're a blackout drinker.
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And you know, it was never one. It was never, you know, it's like one is not enough, and you know, 100 or whatever the saying goes. But that was my exposure to it, and it was just, you know, what do I do tomorrow? And they said, we'll do the same thing. And I had about a month of school left, and I had, you know, talked to the powers that be at the school, and they said it doesn't make much sense. You already didn't re-sign your contract to come back next year and just finish the year out. It makes no sense to put somebody in, because obviously the kids love you, and
Yep.
you know, you're a great guy. You know, this is really unfortunate for you. And when the kids graduated, you know, from 4th grade into 5th grade, I checked myself into a treatment program that I had been fortunate enough to get into, and I was going to do the 30 days. And ended up staying there for the entire summer of 2010, fortunately, because I had a lot of people that were helping me. And from there, just, you know, continued to do the things that were suggested, and, you know, stated that if you do these things, your life will improve, whether you believe it or not. Just show up and do it.
So I remember no prison. You avoided prison.
Yeah.
And I remember you, at some point, I picked you up from the recovery house and took you to another meeting.
Yep, I remember the Mercedes,
Yep.
silver Mercedes.
That's correct.
Yep.
AMG.
Yep, I remember that.
560. But here's the thing. I remember you being shaky. I remember that was my. I remember you were very stressed out about, you know, how am I going to survive all these different things. And you said something to me that has resonated with me since that moment. And it's something that affects me to this day. You said, I'm going to lose my teaching license.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you know? You know, I lost my driver's license, eventually 5 years, right? And you said, you I don't want to say you broke down, but
No, yeah.
I felt like there was a crack finally in Matt's ego. And it's all I ever, I was like, so it's not a big deal. You'll find something else. You're young, you're handsome, you're strong, you're smart. But you know, like most of us, our disease lies to us.
Yeah.
It says, no, this is the end of the world.
Yeah.
Why? Because if it's the end of the world, you might as well just get fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, if I knew the world was going to be over in an hour, I very well might just drink a bottle of vodka with you and what the hell.
Call it a day.
I'd like to be blacked out when the world ends.
Right.
But okay, so you said these words, and I use them now. You said, all I ever wanted to do was be an educator. I never heard it. I'm a wordsmith. I'm a pitch guy. I listen. I can sell anything. And I practice this craft. And I never heard anybody say those words. All I ever wanted to do was be an educator. Now today, you actually are an educator. A very meaningful educator. Thousands of people, educating them on quality protein and all the shit that's processed and packaged and sold to us as whey and this and that and all these different stores. His product is the real thing, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But today, all I want to do is be an educator. People have been coming to me. People have been coming at me. I'm going to trial, fighting for my life, literally facing a life sentence, 30 years. It said I'm a 50-year-old guy. And people are calling me up and crying and moaning to me about this and that, and their girlfriend broke up with them and they're never going to fall in love again. And I'm like, I do my best to help them and push my stuff to the side, which is obviously very helpful.
Absolutely.
But Stephanie has said to me 1,000 times, you can't be helping all these people. You got to get paid for it. You're spending a lot of time. And I never really was able to separate that business from the recovery.
Sure.
Because to me, it's just about being the best person I can be.
100%.
And you just wanted to be an educator, and you were really shattered about that.
Yeah. I mean, you work so hard for something for so long, and when something's stripped from you or taken from you, as you know, whether it's your freedom, whether it's your family, whether it's your job, whether it's whatever it is, you realize that you didn't really appreciate it, and there was a lack of gratitude.
Interesting.
And I learned that from other men.
A hard lesson.
Hard lessons to learn, and it's I can either take that and run and do the right thing and put forth just for today, put forth the right effort and the right amount of my talents and skills, or I could do the other thing. And the other thing stopped working a long time ago, and it never really worked. And I'm really fortunate. I appreciate you sharing that, because educator. I was ruined. I'll never get this. I'll never get that. And a couple of years ago, it was kind of crazy because I was invited to speak at a school on substance abuse.
Wow.
I was invited
at St. Andrew's School.
I was supposed to speak at the graduation, but
wow,
unfortunately,
I understand
the COVID stuff, and I filmed something for the reverend at the time and sent it in, and had another opportunity to speak to another group of young people and share. I remember that stuff growing up. You remember the DARE program in New York, and people coming in and putting on these silly skits, and I was never really one for that. But if someone comes at you, right, someone comes at you real and shares something, and it's I always, if parents call me, I'm I'm not going to be hey, don't do this and don't do that. I'm going to share the reality of what, if you're going to choose to do this, that's okay, but there are results that are going to come from that aren't going to be pretty.
Consequences are nasty.
Yeah.
So let's move forward now, because we have a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
And then, so you're no longer an educator.
No.
You're living in Boca, and you have no driver's license.
Correct.
And you were always a very fit young man, even when you were drunk. He was a good-looking drunk, I got to tell you. And he was probably the best-looking guy at Gun Hill Road, for the gun club. But I remember you driving your bicycle everywhere.
Yeah, I either walked, ran, or biked everywhere, and hopped on a bus if I needed to. And public transportation down here is not like New York City.
Correct.
Sometimes the bus doesn't show up.
And there was no Uber.
No, there was no Uber. I love saying that. I got sober before Uber.
Right.
Makes me feel old.
Really, it's a wonderful achievement. How about that? I never thought of it like that.
But it allowed it. I don't want to say it forced me, but it allowed me to call other people and ask for help. Hey, do you think I could have a ride or do this? And I always felt okay with certain people about doing that because they had offered, and no one ever said no, because you give back, right? What you so freely receive. And
100%.
And I think that's a really important lesson in early sobriety is, it's I'm a little intense, as you know, and when people are like, oh, I can't do this, I'm like, do you have a car? Do you have an Uber account? I used to walk, ride, or run, or take a bus.
I remember you running 5 miles to my house in
out there, out
West Ravage.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember you riding your bike. I remember thinking to myself, this poor guy. And then I'm getting in my car, and now I'm fat and old, and walking to my car is a pain in the neck. And this guy used to run 5 miles to my house, 5 miles home, hang out, talk recovery and all these different things, see my kids, help out with my family. What a guy he became.
Thank you.
What a man he became. I'm frightened to see where you're going to be in 5 years now. So now, one thing you did that forced you to sort of stay in shape.
Yeah.
That forced you to really stay, and now I know you started training people.
Yeah, no, it's been a wild ride. I went from biking everywhere. Certain families, were like, hey, I understand what happened. You're doing good. You can tutor my kid or train my kid after school. So I'd go to certain neighborhoods. I'd go to Patch Reef Park and do some baseball lessons, whatever I could to make some money and
to survive,
pay off my debt and pay my bills.
Correct.
And there were less bills because of not having a car insurance or anything. So that was helpful.
And not drinking every day, buying alcohol every day.
Correct.
And that used to cost me a fortune.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what really happened was great. Through a lot of really awesome people giving me opportunities. I found some work here and there through other people that, gave me a second chance. And
you were forced out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's not you to reach out and say, can you help me?
Yeah. And
it wasn't me either.
Right.
As an alpha male type guy, I'm like, my life changed the day I came back from rehab. And I stood up in front of a room of strangers, said, I'm Ross Mandell. I just got back from rehab. I live in the city here, and I don't know anybody that's sober. Everybody I know is a dealer, is a limo driver, is an escort. if anybody could, give me your number, I would feel free to. I would, if it's okay for me to call you.
Yeah.
And like 20 people came at me, and then they took me out for coffee, and 8 women, and 3 of these women became serious relationships for me over the first few years of my sobriety. So, asking for help is a big thing for certain people.
I think for everybody.
I know guys that all they do is ask for help because they're shysters and
I see what you're saying.
they have an agenda, they're takers and all that stuff. But for good people, for normal, healthy people, asking for help is stepping out of a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's changed my life. And I'm not afraid to ask for help, and I'm not afraid to seek help, people that know. And I'm doing this right now in my life. Now you're training people, you're educating people, you're tutoring, you're bike riding. Yeah. I'll never forget when you called me one day and you said, I'm getting my license back, or I want to buy a Jeep or some car. Yeah. What do you think? I could afford this, and I was going to buy this, but then I saw something a little nicer and I want that. And I remember, chuckling to myself, he's healing. He's healing. Yeah. It's a process.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
Years.
Well, that's what
Days,
it takes.
Minutes, hours.
If you're really sick and you get healed up in 1 minute, well, you probably weren't that sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It took me a great deal of time, and like I said, asking for a lot of help, and in that process, being able to realize I might not be able to teach right away, but I can get back into the fitness side of things and go back into maybe training some people, coaching some classes, educating in the fitness world, and learning from other people. It allowed me to do some research on the product that we talked about, FROPRO, where I was like, I didn't have a lot of money, so I was like, I'm gonna try to make my own thing, because when you pack a backpack and you're biking around town, you know how it is. It can rain 1 second or not, so it's like you got a towel, you got fresh dry clothes in a bag.
I've never had that issue.
Right. I hope no one has to have that issue.
I've had different issues.
Right. And it was like, what am I gonna eat? And I just started making this little snack bar and taking it with me. And
you want to give us the secret formula right now?
I mean, it's on the.
Tell all us.
It's organic peanut butter, plant-based protein, gluten-free oats, honey, and cinnamon.
And why that combination of ingredients?
It was honestly the only thing I had in my pantry.
Okay, that's not the answer I was looking for, right, but I mean, that's an honest answer.
But that's what it started as, and
And it had to stay frozen? It had to stay...
I had tried baking it, I had tried so many different things, and I love dessert. I'm a dessert guy, so like anything cold, obviously, in the hot Florida sun
You don't look, you can say that.
I can crush a pint of ice cream.
Right here.
I can crush a pint of ice cream, no problem. But what was great about it is it started that way, because it was like I had metrics, protein powder, whey.
Right, all that.
And as I created the product, I met other people that were like, hey, maybe you should try this or do this, because this will be able to be, other people will be able to eat it. And I learned about I learned about plant-based and
organic and vegan
and all these different things and all these different labels and how people live their life. And, if I could share this with the masses and share this with people on a better level, I'll change the protein, I'll do this, I'll do that. And it was really great. I had a lot of really good direction from people that gave me suggestions, and it allowed me to take this little thing I was making, and someone gave me an opportunity, and she said, hey, make me 100 of those. I had no clue how to do it. She said, figure it out. When you do, call me. I wrapped it in this Glad plastic wrap. Another friend of mine.
I bought many of those, just so you know.
Printed a little white label, from your computer, put it on there, brought it to her, and she said, what did you pay for this? And I said, I don't know what you mean. She's like, what did it cost you to make these? I said, I have no idea. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to sell it for this, and when I sell out, I'll pay you this. And I said, great. And I ran out of the store, I don't know what just happened. Hopefully she doesn't call my name and be like, nah, I changed my mind. 3 days later, she called me. She's like, hey, I sold out. I need another 100 more. And I was like, oh. And then she's like, hey, can you call my friend? She tried it, loves it. She has a place in Delray. And I talked to her, and she's like, yeah, I'll buy 25 to see how it goes. And this little thing that I enjoyed making for myself was shared with people in the community. Those people in the community shared it with others. Some people that had businesses allowed me to sell it there. And I was never a businessman. I was not, I didn't create this FROPRO snack bar to become a business. It just was something I enjoyed. It was a passion of mine. I really had nothing else going on other than showing up to an office job, starting to train at a gym, starting to figure out, maybe going back into the corporate world and working in the treatment center, because I felt I was helped and I could help others. And slowly this little thing just started to evolve, and eventually my bills started getting paid off and my debt was settled, and I was able to leave the corporate job because it wasn't what I was really passionate about, and I started focusing more on training at a friend's gym that gave me a chance. And
I remember that.
Still building the bar, and meanwhile, my wife is working at this tremendous, awesome company, and she's, like, I think I want to leave and help you, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm writing things down in a notebook, like, I don't know, I can't sit at a desk, I'm not the technical guy. And she's like, well, I run this company, so I feel like we can do it. And she started helping me, and slowly we get to a point where it's probably 8 years in, and we open our first shop, our first brick and mortar, where we have a gym, we have a manufacturing and distribution point and kitchen.
Where's the gym located?
We're right off Clintmore Road, in between Military and Congress, which is like the West Rogers, East Rogers loop.
Right.
And we opened that in 2018. And my wife had
It's an amazing gym, everybody. Do you sell memberships?
It's one of those things where it's I train my clients out of there, and
Right.
it's just a private, like, boutique training facility. And
So other trainers pay you, and they have the right to bring their people?
Two of my friends run their books out of there, and we like it. It's small, it's quiet, it's it's not really meant for
Private, personal.
Right.
And it's unique.
We've hosted events there before, which has been great, but we've been able to.
It's a beautiful gym, by the way.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I mean, beautiful, first class.
And we then expanded from 2018 into the space next door, so now we're under 5,000 square feet, and we've improved, and we've dialed in certain things and learned things about a business that I never thought I'd learn. You got machines coming in, and I have to learn if something breaks how to fix it and train somebody else. And what's great about it today is, like, my wife is the CEO. She's an amazing woman, as you know.
Chelsea, what's shaking, baby? Giving you a shout out.
So
I know her when she was a babysitter for the Gilberts. I mean, what?
Time has
Beautiful young
flown.
girl.
And she's the CEO. We have an amazing team of men and women that really have helped transform the brand, transform the the messaging and what we're doing. And I focus a lot on the coaching side. I kind of took a step away. I'm just the founder now. She's the CEO, and we have director of operations and marketing and all this other stuff. And it's really cool to watch. Like, I show up if there's if they need me to do something, because I'm obviously right next door, but most of my time today is focused on, either training people in the gym or working with people that are struggling with drugs and alcohol, and doing that. That is fulfilling. You're
like an official mentor, right, for next level recovery. Is that fair to say? Tell me about that. Tell us about that.
My friend Amanda, who I've known for years, she started this amazing company, and I said, we were doing a podcast, and I said, she told me about it. I said, you ever need somebody, let me know. Think of me. I would love to be a part of if you need it. And a couple months later, she's like, hey, we're really crushing it, and I need to bring somebody on, and I think you'd be a perfect fit. And I started doing some contracting work and coaching and some stuff, and working with young men that failure to launch or have other issues that have gone through either treatment or programming. It's more like life building skills and kind of getting back into life after maybe being gone for a while because of drugs and alcohol, which has been great. And they've, being a part of that for the last couple of years has been really rewarding, and, learning a lot about the industry and what I like and what I don't like. So I have a really great balance of, having this amazing company that I started and founded.
With an amazing product.
With an amazing
This is
product.
not just us talking. If you go right here, we're in Delray. Mm-hmm. There's a Whole Foods where I shop on Linton Boulevard.
Yep.
In Delray.
Yep.
And I'm surrounded by your FROPRO. His products everywhere.
Yeah, Whole Foods has been really great to us.
And that's a big account now. You're not just in one Whole Foods, correct?
Yeah, so in the state, there's 32, I want to say. We're in those. We've been working really hard to expand. And
how's that going? Any luck so far?
It's been a process. We have been accepted into a lot of new stores in 7 new states. Hopefully, as what we've talked about, that does launch in November, but again, I haven't really said that out loud. Here I am saying it.
We're breaking news here. That's what going public is all about.
So, we're supposed to launch in all these new places in November, but like I said, when I see the pallets of the bars leaving my warehouse, then I'll be able to be like, this is exciting.
You're a show-me guy.
Right. And, life today, like you said, man, it was tragic. It was tragic for a long time. I love what I did. I love teaching. I love being an educator and a coach. And, losing all of that and starting fresh at 28. And sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, man, I'm going to be 43 in a month.
43.
And
you were a kid.
And it's crazy. One of the best things that I was able to take, again, obviously, like, you had your hardships, but being able to, come and visit you was one of the highlights for me, because it was a long drive down there.
Oh yeah. Let me just bring this to light for a minute. The audience is probably aware that I was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, 144 months. I ended up serving 9 years and 4 months in federal custody.
Yeah.
I did 6 years in prison. I was 3 years in prison, 3 years in a federal camp.
Yeah.
Then I was 9 months in home confinement during COVID. Then they brought me back because they still had more time to do. Then they kept me for another about 2 years in the federal detention center in the city of Miami, and then at Coleman Camp, where they let me go. I did another year in home confinement, and as of January 10th, I'm a free man.
Yeah.
And Matthew came to see me at FCI Miami,
Yeah.
and at the federal prison camp Miami,
Yeah.
several times, and that is something that an inmate never forgets.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I remember going to see him in this lockdown little rehab,
Treatments, yeah.
and taking him out to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had something to eat as well.
Yep.
And life throws you a lot of, God's not done with us until he's done with us. The only absolute I could tell you is nobody gets through this world alive.
Right.
You're born and you're going to die. Those are two certainties, right?
Yep.
What happens in between, that's fodder for the tombstone.
Mm.
We live. And so that's my adventure. And Matthew is so near and dear to me because I know that when I need him, I need something. My family has needed something. You can always count on Matthew Williams. That's the kind of guy he is, and I want you all to know that. He's a very special man. He's not just the FROPRO guy and the beautiful male model type running the New York City Marathon. Foot Locker, Man of the Year, Athlete of the Year?
No, it was a good campaign back in 2016.
2016, running
great.
marathons. Out of about 100,000 people, they picked Matthew as their guy, national television commercial. I saw that when I was in prison. And so he's the real deal, which is why I wanted him here today on our first real podcast at Going Public.
Hey, man.
This means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Is a guy that was a school teacher that blew it all, drugs and alcohol, lost his license, driver's license 5 years, locked down rehab for months and months, and built himself back a brick at a time, slowly but surely. And now it's fair to say he has running a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah.
And he's also a multi-millionaire. Right? Him and Chelsea. It's probably old Chelsea now gets the money.
Yeah, she's
But,
the boss.
she keeps Matthew on probably a tight allowance.
Correct.
But he's doing what he loves to do, which is help people that are struggling, that have afflictions from a variety of issues, not just drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Oftentimes, people have trouble with food. People are dealing with sexual abuse, all these different things. And human tragedies. Matthew was a guy that will always reach out his hand. So if any of you need to look him up, it's Matthew Williams. How do we find you online?
Easiest, Instagram. It's MWAR Williams, so MWAR Williams. You can find me on Instagram. You can find our business at FROPRO Snacks. That's FROPRO Snacks, SNACKS. LinkedIn. Matthew Williams is a pretty generic name, but
It really is.
It's usually my goofy face with a hat on and a beard. But
all these handsome guys wear these beards today. I don't understand. You know what I mean? Guys like me, we're shaving because we're struggling here.
Yeah.
But these good-looking men, they want to cover their face with beards. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of you.
Love you, man.
I love you too. I'm so grateful that you came.
Thanks for having me.
I want to thank Chelsea for allowing him to come because
I'm needed.
I understand who wears the pants in a successful family.
That's correct.
I'm like. Women, you too, me too, you too.
Yeah.
Let's go, you empowering women.
She's an amazing woman.
And that's all for today, folks. I just want to say this is a genuine story. None of this is manufactured for social media, for YouTube or whatever. This is the real thing. This is a 28-year-old man who lost everything, who only wanted to be an educator, teach kids. And now he's educating the world on quality protein in, one of the finest shops in this country, maybe of all time. Thank you for coming today, Matthew.
Thanks, brother.